Hello everyone and a very warm welcome to another lesson. In this lesson, we are going to learn about IELTS Speaking Part 1. Our topic is going to be emails. Emails. In this lesson, we are going to look at some questions that the examiner is likely to ask you about emails. We are also going to look at some sample answers. And finally, at the end of this lesson, I'm going to give you some tips to ensure that you pass your IELTS speaking test with a very high band. Now, let us look at question 1. Do you often send emails? Do you often send emails? In this question, the examiner wants to know whether you send emails at all. Okay? Now you can answer this question by saying, yes, I do send emails daily. Quite often, I do it first thing in the morning or later in the evening. Yes, I do send emails daily. Quite often, I do it first thing in the morning or later in the evening. Now you notice that in that answer, yes, I have acknowledged that I do send emails, and I have pointed out that I do that daily. Daily means every day. But I went on and elaborated my answer a little bit further by explaining to the examiner that I send my emails quite often first thing in the morning, okay, and later in the evening. So I send my emails first thing in the morning or later in the evening. You notice in that sentence I have used a connector, or what we call linking words. It is extremely important that you use linking words in your answers. But also try and use a variety of sentence structures. You notice the first answer, yes, I do send emails daily, is a simple answer. It's a simple sentence because it has only one verb. And then quite often I do it first thing in the morning or later in the evening. That is a compound sentence. Now let's move on to question 2. What do you write about? What do you write about? In this question, the examiner simply wants to know what is the content of your emails when you write them. Now you can answer this question by saying, the sort of emails that I write are mainly business related to different clients, but every now and then I do also write personal emails to a few friends. The sort of emails that I write are mainly business related to different clients, but every now and then I do also write personal emails to a few friends. So in that answer, you have clarified to the examiner that the sort of emails that you write, that is the type of emails that you write, are mainly business related. That means formal emails to different clients or customers. But every now and then, okay, that is an expression that we use a lot when we are speaking, and it means occasionally. Every now and then. I do also write personal emails to a few friends. So in that answer, we have two categories of emails, that is business related to different clients and personal emails to a few friends. Now you notice in that answer, I have used linking words such as but, and there is also and then there is also, okay? The sort of emails that I write are mainly business related to different clients, but every now and then I do also write personal emails to a few friends. Now that entire sentence is a complex sentence. Now, let's move on to question 3. Do you think emails are useful? Do you think emails are useful? In that question, the examiner simply wants to know your opinion as to whether you think emails are useful or beneficial. Okay? Useful means beneficial. Do you think emails are beneficial? Now you can answer that question by saying emails are very useful because they are a very quick, easy, and cheap digital way of getting and staying in touch. You can also save them for future reference. Emails are very useful because they are a very quick, easy, and cheap digital way of getting and staying in touch. You can also save them for future reference. So in that answer, I have pointed out the benefits of emails. 1, they are very quick. 2, very easy to send. 3, cheap, digital, okay? Very cheap, easy, quick way of getting in touch and staying in touch, okay? Getting in touch means getting in contact with the other person and staying in touch with them, okay? You can also save them for future reference. So in that answer, I have a number of benefits. They are quick, easy, and cheap, but also they are very useful when you want to save them for future reference. You notice in that answer, I have used a number of linking words such as because, and finally, I've also used also. In that answer, I have a complex sentence, that is the first one, and I have a simple sentence, that is the next one. That is, you can also save them for future reference. Now let's move on to question 4. What do you think of companies that send spam emails for the purpose of advertising? What do you think of companies that send spam emails for the purpose of advertising? In that question, the examiner wants to know your opinion. What do you think of companies? We have companies that send spam emails for the purpose of advertising. What do you think of them? Okay? Now you can answer that question by saying, well, ultimately, I know these companies are doing their best to market their products to potential clientele, but I still find them extremely annoying and distasteful. Well, ultimately, I know these companies are doing their best to market their products to potential clientele, but I still find them extremely annoying and distasteful. Now, in that answer, I have provided a very balanced response. I have first of all pointed out that yes, I understand where these companies are coming from, because ultimately means their goal. Their goal is to market their products. They are trying to find potential clientele. Another word for clientele is customer. They send these spam emails to try and market their products to potential clientele, to potential customers. I have pointed out that yes, I understand that's what their ultimate goal is, although I still find them extremely annoying and distasteful. Okay? Extremely annoying and distasteful. Now, in that answer, I have used a complex sentence. The entire sentence is a complex sentence. Now, let's move on to question 5. How do you keep in touch with your friends? How do you keep in touch with your friends? In this question, the examiner simply wants to know through which means do you keep in touch with your friends? How do you communicate with your friends? How do you get in touch with them, and how do you stay in touch? Okay, how do you keep in touch, or how do you stay in touch? Now you can answer this question by saying, I keep in touch with my friends mainly through social media apps such as WhatsApp and Instagram, and occasionally via email. I keep in touch with my friends mainly through social media apps such as WhatsApp and Instagram, and occasionally via email. I keep in touch with my friends mainly through social media apps such as WhatsApp and Instagram, and occasionally via email. So in that answer, I have identified a number of ways through which I keep in touch with my friends. That is through social media apps such as WhatsApp and Instagram. But I also pointed out to the examiner that I keep in touch with my friends occasionally. Occasionally means every now and then via email. So I send them email messages. But mainly, I use WhatsApp and Instagram. Okay? Now, that entire sentence is also a complex sentence. And this brings me to the second section of our lesson, where I'm going to give you a number of tips to ensure that you pass your IELTS speaking test with a very high band. Tip number 1, ensure that you understand the question. Tip number 2, ensure that you answer each question by providing 2 to 3 points. And then what I mean by points is 2 to 3 ideas. And then just join your ideas together using linking words, which brings me to the next point, that is join your ideas using linking words. For example, you can see in my sample answers, all the ones that I've written in red are linking words or linkers. Some people call them linkers, some people call them linking words. We call them connectors also, or conjunctions. Okay, you can see in my sample answers I have used or, but, also, because, and, okay, such as. The next tip is ensure that you use a variety of sentence structures in your answers. Use simple sentences. Like you can see the first sentence, yes, I do send emails daily. That is a simple sentence. But you're also expected to use compound sentences. Okay, you're expected to use compound sentences and complex sentences. For example, when you look at answer number 3, number 4, and number 5, they are all complex sentences. In complex sentences, quite often you will find you have more than 2 linking words, and that means then that you also have at least 3 different phrases. Okay, if you look at number 3, emails are very useful because they are a very quick, easy, and cheap digital way of getting and staying in touch. That is an example of a compound sentence. And then the next one, you can also save them for future reference. That is a simple sentence. And then number 4, well, ultimately, I know these companies are doing their best to market their products to potential clientele, but I still find them extremely annoying and distasteful. That is a complex sentence. Now, the next tip is try as much as possible to use the correct vocabulary for each question, okay? For each question that you're answering, ensure that you use the correct vocabulary, okay? That is extremely important. And try whatever you can. You can use high sounding, high band type of vocabulary for the topic that you're talking about. Like, for example, you can see in my answers, I use expressions such as quite often. I do it first thing in the morning or later in the evening. That kind of phrase is a typical expression that we use in English. And if you use that, then it will score you a high band. Also, I have used other expressions such as every now and then, okay? I have also used words such as business related and personal emails. I have used words such as digital, okay? Saving them for future reference, okay? Words such as ultimately, okay? Clientele, potential clientele, distasteful, okay? Those sort of words are words that belong to high band if you want to score a high band in your speaking test. Now, the next thing that is extremely important, actually more important than all the rest, is that you have to use the correct tense. Your grammar is extremely, extremely important. As soon as you begin speaking broken English, the examiner straight away knows that your band score is going to be low. The examiner stops looking at the descriptors for band 9, for example, band 8, band 7, band 6, and they start looking at the lower bands. That is what happens when you speak broken English in your speaking test. And what I mean by broken English is when your tenses are not correct, when you don't have a subject-verb agreement, okay? When your grammar is not correct, then, or when you're using prepositions incorrectly. Like, for example, you can see in my first answer, okay, I do it first thing in the morning, later in the evening, okay? It is extremely important that if you use prepositions, you use them correctly. Look at number 3, staying in touch, getting and staying in touch, okay? Very, very important. Communicating via email. Remember, you can also say by email if you have a problem pronouncing via, okay? You can say, I keep in touch with my friends mainly through social media apps such as WhatsApp and Instagram, and occasionally by email. That is also correct English. So ensure that you're using the correct grammar. If you look at my answers, look at the first answer. Yes, I do send emails. The verb there is send. So that is in the present tense. I do send. I often, quite often, I do. So you can see do there again is in the present tense. Then you move on to question 2. The sort of emails that I write are mainly business related to different clients, but every now and then I do also write personal emails to a few friends. You can see all the verbs in that answer, write and do, are also in the present tense. Number 3, emails are very useful because they are a very quick, easy, and cheap digital way of getting and staying in touch. You can also save them for future reference. We have 2 verbs there, that is, they are and can, and save, and you notice that those verbs also are in the present tense. And then if you look at question 4, well, ultimately, I know these companies are doing their best to market their products to potential clientele, but I still find them extremely annoying and distasteful. You notice in that sentence, I have the verbs are and find, and they are also in the present tense. And finally, number 5, I keep in touch with my friends mainly through social media apps such as WhatsApp and Instagram, and occasionally via email. And you notice there, I keep, that is also in the present tense. So that should be a tip for you, that most of the answers in your part 1, in your IELTS speaking test, part 1, you should use a present tense in the verbs. But be very careful once more, you need to look at the questions, okay? That is what will determine what tense that you're going to use. Now, if you have any problems with your tenses, feel free to have a look at my playlist. I have a playlist on all the 13 tenses that we have in English. That should help you a lot. Now, then this brings me to the last section of this lesson where I read for you the questions, and as I read the questions, think of an answer, please. Are you ready? Okay, let us begin. Question 1. Do you often send emails? Question 2. What do you write about? Question 3. Do you think emails are useful? Question 4. What do you think of companies that send spam emails for the purpose of advertising? Question 5. How do you keep in touch with your friends? Now, I hope that you're able to answer all those questions correctly, but if you had a few problems here and there, do not worry at all because you have the sample answers. So you can practice and adapt the sample answers to your own answers. Now, if you're going to be sitting for your IELTS speaking test in the near future, I wish you all the best. Remember, you can do it. Remember the tips that I have given in the lesson. Try as much as possible and use a variety of sentence structures. Speak in the correct tense. Use linking words. Use the correct vocabulary. And you should not have a problem scoring a high band. Okay? Now, thank you very much for your time. If you found this lesson useful, if you learned something new from this lesson, then all I'm going to ask you to do is just subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and share the video on all your social media platforms. And remember to turn your notification button on, because I upload videos on all sorts of topics that are related to IELTS, writing and speaking. But in my channel, you can also find videos on grammar and vocabulary. And remember that with English, just like your own mother tongue, all you have to do is practice, okay? All you have to do is practice. Ensure that you speak a lot, okay? Just become a chatterbox and everything should be fine. Now, thank you very much for your time and for subscribing, and see you in our next lesson. Bye bye.